Welcome to Friday with Friends, the Friday episode of Unperfect, where I get to pick the brains of some amazing new and old friends here on the podcast. Today, we continue our conversation with Sandy Cooper from the Balanced Momcast and Writing Off Social, completing this two-part series on an honest conversation about social media. If you didn't catch the first half, click the link in the show notes for episode number 61. She shared her journey of leaving social media, and it was a journey. She doesn't even recommend anyone leave cold turkey and delete all your accounts. And today, she's going to continue giving more tips on connecting with others and getting all the information you need in other potentially healthier ways, as well as tell you about some life-giving benefits she's experienced being off social media. So listen in to episode number 63.
You're going to know because people will make sure once people realize and they're used to the fact that you're not on Facebook, you're going to get a text from the girl that used to be your next door neighbor. And they're going to be like, hey, did you know so-and-so died? I know you're not on Facebook. You may not have seen this. And I'm like, oh no, thank you so much for telling me. Like, that is what will actually happen. And so if you can just assign someone, your mother-in-law who's going to still be there will let you know what's going on with your cousins, or,
Right.
you can start like my siblings and we just started a family thread on my phone. And so now I can still share pictures of my kids and first day of school and,
Yeah.
I let them know my prayer requests, all those things, but it's with a group of people that I know actually will pray for me and actually care to see my kids' pictures. I
Sure.
have similar groups with friends, just so that we can stay in touch. So I would say, so you're going to name your fears. You're going to make a list of the people and you're going to figure out alternate ways to be in touch with them. If you're worried about not getting information from schools or clubs, I think this is one of the hardest things, but hear me out here. So, first of all, you can be a catalyst for change and you can say, my family doesn't use social media. Where can we post this information someplace else, like the school website?
Sure.
Or can you let me know of tryout dates and practice schedule by email, in addition to posting it here in this Facebook group where I may or may not see it because of the algorithm?
Right. And my son's school, they use the Remind
Exactly.
app for
Like practices and meets and
for
mhm.
individual sports and
Yep.
individual things, and it's so nice. That's actually easier for me.
Exactly. And so contacting the head of the group, the head of the club. Also, I figured out pretty quickly that the school Facebook, like my daughter's class, had a parent led Facebook group where all the parents would share information like, oh, what was going on with traffic this morning in carpool? And
Right.
does anyone know why the fire alarm went off today? Or, it's that kind of stuff. I realized, oh, wait, they're not really sharing stuff I
Right.
have to know. Like the stuff that I have to know, I am getting emails about, or I am getting I can find on the website. And so you have to ask yourself, are you really going to lose information if you're not in that Facebook group? Probably not. So I would, again, and you can appoint an ambassador. So I had a friend, my best friend was still in that Facebook group because we had kids in the same grade. And I'm like, if you see anything that you think I need to know, can you just shoot me a text? And she's like, got it. And she would screenshot it or copy and paste it into a text. She'd be like, you might want to see this. Perfect. So you can still disengage and not have to stay on if social media is not good for you. So again, if you want to stay on social media, stay on social media. I'm not here to try to tell you. But if you're thinking you want to get off and you're afraid to, then let me just, these are just practical ways. And then, as I stated before, finally, after you appoint an ambassador, I would really recommend you just phase out gradually. And you just start by, maybe just unfollowing and unfriending, depending on what platform you're on, friend or follow, people that anyone that is not like someone you have to be in touch with. And then, start just leaving the groups. Why am I in this, whatever. I was going to try to be funny, but I can't think of anything funny right now.
Yeah.
This random group that
Well, I've
I've
looked back
joined in.
at my groups, and I don't even know what
Yeah,
half of them are. Like, I must have joined
exactly.
10 years ago for something, and I don't even remember what, or
That's exactly right. That's right. And so once you start whittling it down, you will find that there really is, for most of us, very little that we are actually going to lose, if anything, if we just shut it down. And honestly, it wasn't until so I left my official leave date was, like I said, March 21st, 2021, but it wasn't until August of 2023 when I actually deactivated my account. So I kept a friendless Facebook account in case someone was like, you need to, can you jump in this group to do, but
sure,
it was just an account. It was my account. I unfriended everyone and I just used it if I needed to see anything or whatever. But last year in August, I decided to take a break from everything, all work related things for a solid month. And during that month, I thought I'm just going to deactivate for the month of August. And August ended and I never reactivated.
mm,
And so now I've been deactivated now for a really long time. So the next step, the final nail in the coffin would be to delete the accounts, which I haven't done that yet. So I may or may not. But yeah, so I those would be my tips. It would be naming what you're afraid of and then addressing each thing in a real practical way so that you're not just elusively frightened because
sure,
it is just a social media platform at the end of the day. Like
right.
this really is just Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, and what I loved about what you did just now is just listing there are so many other ways that we can connect or we can get the information that we need. I was thinking about the news before it got so toxic.
Yeah.
That is where I found out because I was a stay home mom. I didn't get out much, or when I was, I
Yeah.
wasn't thinking about what was happening in another country or whatever. I felt like I got
Sure.
my news from there, and I discovered, and there's probably lots of them, but like the pour over. I don't know if you're familiar with the pour over.
Oh, I do. Yes, I love the pour over. Yes.
And you just get 3 emails a week, and they're short. They tell
Yeah.
you the main things that have happened internationally, and they don't put any spin on it. Like, they don't say why it was good or
Yes.
bad. They just say, "Here's what happened." And then they give you a scripture to remind you that you don't have to be afraid of what's happening in the world, like God is in control.
I love that. I know, it's my favorite.
I know there are people out there that are like, "Why on earth would you get your news from social media?" But they're just smarter people than me. I don't
That's right. Well, and I also started getting our, local newspaper
the
again.
paper, yes.
Yes, and so I get all of the local news 24 hours later than the rest of the world, but
Right,
I still know what's going on. And
right.
so I sit down, it's not algorithm driven, it's not showing me things like I you mentioned about the algorithm and having me talk about that. The thing about a news algorithm and a Facebook or social media algorithm is that once it sees that you're interested in something, it starts flooding you with similar posts that it thinks you
Right.
will want because it's collecting your data. And so, and that's how they make their money. There's a multi-billion dollar industry that is actually studying and implementing addictive technology. And this isn't some conspiracy. You can read it in reputable books.
Absolutely.
In fact, I would highly recommend the most recent book that just came out is called The Anxious Generation. It's by Jonathan Haidt, Haidt, I think is how you spell his name. He also has a Substack newsletter called After Babel.
Mm,
It is a phenomenally detailed and well researched book with all the latest data on what social media and phones are doing to our culture. And the algorithm and the way it feeds you information is is not the same as being able to just open up your newspaper, scan the headlines, stop and read the things that you want to read more of. If you pause on a news feed or you pause on your social media feed, that data is collected and then you pause on this was always my fear and it would happen to me is I would pause and hover over one story like about a child being kidnapped and suddenly the algorithm thinks all I care about are kidnapped and dead
exactly.
children and it will
Yes.
just And
Exactly.
I'm like, stop. I
Yeah.
don't want to. Send me happy stories, happy
Right.
news.
Right.
So it's a real thing. And you mentioned earlier about guarding your heart. And as I started pulling away, I realized how unguarded my heart had been while I was on, because I would get on with the intention, like you said, to just check something really quick. I'm just going to check this whatever Facebook Marketplace at the place, or I'm here to just check to see what's going on, why the kids had a fire alarm today, and did are we going to figure out who pulled it, or was there an
Right.
actual fire? And 2 hours later, because the algorithm fed me ads and posts and hid other things from me, people that I wanted to hear from. I mean, I don't know about you, but by the time I left social media, the people that were in my feed were such a weird mix of
Yes.
my life. Like, it wasn't, and you go try to trick the algorithm, like, I'm just going to like all of my sister's posts so that my
Right.
sister shows back up. But like, my sister won't come. But like, that girl that
Yeah.
sat next to me in the second grade that picked her nose is in my feed. Why?
Yes,
Like,
exactly. And to what
yeah.
you're saying, it's changed. Like when
Yeah.
we started out on it, you were getting the people most important to you on your feed.
They were in
And
chronological order with the most recent one, and then you got to the end of your feed, and it was the end. Like,
you were
it
done.
literally
Yes.
said, "That's all for today," or "You're all up to date." There was, like, some little
Yes.
message, and then Asa Raskin, the inventor of infinite scroll, put in
Mm,
this, well, it's exactly what the name implies, infinite scroll, and now you will never get to the end of your feed,
right.
period. Yeah. And he actually, there's this quote that is so powerful from him. He is now, by the way, out of social media. He doesn't do that at all, and regrets the day that he implemented Infinite
Mm,
Scroll, invented Infinite Scroll. And he is now with Tristan Harris, who is if you saw the Social Dilemma,
yes.
um, Tristan Harris was the one who was featured in the Social Dilemma. So he and Asa Raskin started this movement, but he says that every day, as a direct result of Infinite Scroll, the combined total of 200,000 human lives are spent scrolling on social media.
Oh my word. That's crazy.
Like, I can't even wrap my head around that statistic. Yeah. And so it's not your fault when you get on to check
Right.
Marketplace and you end up watching, 100 puppy videos. It's not your fault.
Right. And one of the quotes from Tristan Harris that you used in one of the emails I got from you was that it's not neutral. The
That's right.
technology companies want you to use it in certain ways. That's how they make their money. And,
That's right.
I just want to believe that I'm not feeding into that, but I'm feeding into that, that
For sure. Yeah.
they are making money off of me because I have bought those bathing suits I didn't need. And then just what they want me to see,
That's right.
like you were saying. And
Yeah.
I noticed lately in Instagram, most of my feed was people they were suggesting. It wasn't even people I knew. So I was like, what happened to the people
That's
that
right.
I knew? That was the only reason I was on Instagram. As you can see, a picture right there of your
Yeah.
friend's college graduate or
Yeah.
whatever. And
Yeah, no, it's all changed. And even like when you said that it's not neutral, I think that's one of the biggest. If I get any pushback from anyone, it's usually the person, and even some of the people who took my social media survey said things like that. Like, social media is just a tool. It can be used for good or for bad, and you get to choose
right,
how you use it. And I'm like, actually, it's not. Because, and it's funny, I said, we have a mutual friend, Mary Kay Tiller. I got off before she did, and she was lamenting about whether or not she wanted to get off completely. And it was before I did all this research. And I was like, you know what? I don't think God really cares if you're on social media or not. It's like your toaster. Like, go make your toast, get in, get out,
right,
go eat your breakfast. You'll be fine. It's so neutral. I was even saying that. I was saying that like as soon as like in 2021, early 2022, I was saying that. And then I start researching it, and the people who created the technology are saying, "Oh no, we knew exactly what
right,
we were doing. We absolutely we're trying to keep you there as long as possible because your data is our fuel. Like these are the people who were like over Facebook when Facebook was created. The technologists and the scientists who were studying addictive behavior. They were studying drugs, they were studying gambling, and they were taking that technology, what we knew happened in the brain, and they were trying to recreate it on social media. You can read all about that in the book Irresistible by Adam Alter. It is fascinating. And so all of a sudden I'm like, now wait a minute, like my toaster does not have
Right.
an agenda. It's not trying to keep me here toasting all day. It's not showing
Right.
me all different other kinds of toast that I can create while I'm
It
standing here.
works for you.
And
Yeah.
that's right. And when at the end of the day, I can walk away from my toaster. I know 0 people who are addicted to their toaster. Like
Yes.
none. None. I don't have people writing like pages and pages in their journal. Gosh, should I stop using the toaster?
Right.
Should I still use it? Like no, it's not neutral.
Exactly.
And the people who like none of this, it was shocking to me when I learned all of this, but most of this is common knowledge now. At least I think it is, but maybe not. Maybe people are hearing this for the first time.
Yeah. And
So
and
yeah,
that's where I like I said, I'm late to everything. So when you started talking about this, I was like, "What?" And so it's taken me a
yeah,
while to kind of to process through the research and everything I've heard too, to really and then to make it personal and go, "Okay, how is
sure,
this really affecting me?" Um, yeah, but I am glad it's being talked about more.
yeah,
But yeah, I'm sure there are listeners out there like me that are like, "Nah, it's good. I just get on and whatever."
yeah,
So
yeah,
I do want to ask you a question because we've talked about a lot of negative stuff. I know, and we're both really nice,
yeah.
fun people. So we want to talk about something positive
We
too.
are.
I want to ask you, what do you love
Yes.
about because it's interesting too. Our mutual friend Teresa Whiting, I was listening to a podcast for her last week, and she was saying with with every yes, there is a no, right? So yes, you're going to give up some
Yeah.
things, and with every no, though, there's a yes. So I love that picture of this.
Yeah.
So what do you love
Yes.
about being off social media?
Well, that's easy. So, first of all, I love having my time back. Like, I love that I am not wasting time because I was legit the least amount of time I was spending daily on social media, evidenced by my screen time. When I would check screen time was 2 hours a day. So 2 hours a day, I no longer spend there and I can redirect that towards something else. So that's first thing. Second thing, I love thinking my own thoughts about things.
Yeah.
Like, I found that when I was on social media, especially that little period of time that I came back at, the pandemic was still happening, very much happening in March of 2021. Everyone's still upset, like about the elections, and people are all having strong opinions about it,
Yep.
and everyone is, a lot of people are still like mask, no mask, vaccine, no vaccine. Did Trump win? Did he not win? What, are there, all the conspiracies, everything. And I realized that my thoughts were being hijacked
Hmm.
about everything rather than just learning information about, for example, COVID from my husband, who is actually a hospital executive and was in the hospital and got like the best
Right.
information. And it was like unfiltered. It was just like straight up information. He could come home and tell me what was going on with COVID.
Right.
And I didn't need to think what everyone else thought about COVID. So I just like having my own thoughts. And when I want to know something, I can just go search it out. I can go read a book. I can listen to a podcast. But I don't have to be inundated with everyone's opinions about every little thing. Like that is a thing I really love. Okay, I also really love just the ability again to focus and work deeply. That was something as a writer, it's something I need in order
Sure.
to be able to create my work. And I used to be able to just get into this deep work state before social media, and really before smartphones are very connected to this for me. And so even after I left social media, I realized that I had to make sure there wasn't anything else on my phone that was also drawing me in constantly. So, but that ability to focus again came back, and be able to just do deep work for long periods of time, where it made me very social media made me very glitchy mentally. And so I just always felt like my thoughts were like ping 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 ping, and I feel like that's gone. I also love um, not feeling the pressure to keep up with every single person that I follow, or to keep everyone who followed me up to date on my life.
Right.
Like, there was just this, at first it almost feels like a death of like, oh wow, I don't know what's going on with anyone, and no one knows what's going on with me. And then it turned into, I don't know what's going on
Right.
with anyone, and no one knows like, there's this mystery. Like, it is this really cool, just, I can just live my life with my real people, like my family and friends. Like, I'm not living in obscurity. I still have a podcast. I still am very, like, I'm doing things like this. I'm talking to friends on podcasts
Right.
as a guest. I have a newsletter that I can post things, but that, like, incessant giving people access to my life and being expected to know what's going on in everyone else's life all the time, it's just gone. Like, I just don't have that pressure anymore, which I love. And finally, and this one is kind of a little bit of rebel, but I just really like being countercultural about it. I like that people are like, "What do you mean you're not on social media?" I'm like, "Yeah, don't tell me where I have to be." Like, I have a little bit
A
of
little
that.
attitude. Yeah.
So, a little bit, a little bit. So I just really like going against the grain about this, and figuring out other ways. When people said, "You can't do that," I'm like, "Yes, I can,
Right.
and let me figure it out."
Right.
So those are all my things, probably even
Yeah.
more if I thought
Yeah.
about it
I
longer.
love it. I one thing I love is that the people I now engage with regularly, and I would say I'm close to, a
Mhm.
lot of times I don't know who they voted for or what denomination their church is. And I
See, I love
love
that.
that. Like,
Yes,
we're
I
in a
love
group
that too.
together where I was thinking the
Yeah.
other day, like, we are so focused, our group is career minded, but and ministry minded, but
Mhm.
we're focused on the gospel and loving each other well and loving Jesus
Mhm.
and helping other people love Jesus more. Like, those other
Yep.
things that you can just get so sucked into, or people would post things that I knew were scripturally, like they were taking that
Yeah.
scripture out of context. And of course, I felt like it was my
Yeah.
God given role to set them straight.
Straight.
But,
Sure,
but
mine too. Yeah.
social media is not, I mean, it's just not the effective place to do that.
No,
It's a good place to get into an argument that you're never going to get out of, no matter how gracefully you try to present your case.
yeah. Well, and to that point, I will say one of the driving factors when I finally decided to log off, when I came back and I said, I hate it here. One of
Right.
the reasons I hated it here was because there were people in my actual real life who I love very, very much, family and close friends, who, when I interact with them outside of social media, I love being around them. But I would look at their social media uh, posts, and I would just get so angry, and I would
Yeah.
just be like, "Oh my gosh, why? Like, what is wrong with you?" And I would feel myself starting, and I would think about it all day. It was more than the 2 hours that I was spending on social media. It would consume my thoughts.
Absolutely.
And I thought, you know what? For the health of my relationships with these people that I love, I need to not see you anymore on social media. Like,
Right.
I need that part of you to go away. And just like you said, now I can have conversations with family members, and we don't ever have to talk about
Right.
politics, period,
Right.
or
Yeah.
whether or not you got vaccinated. Like, I don't
Right.
I don't ever have to know if you got the vaccine, Shelly.
Because
Like,
most people don't go around talking about that except
that's
on
right.
social media, which is so strange. But yes,
It's so
you're
strange.
right.
I know.
You're right.
Right.
And I
So, yep.
also learned my motivations for posting, it unmasked my insecurity because I
Mm.
found myself the 6 months that I was completely off. I would go to take a picture of my family doing this, and my thought was, okay, so let me take a picture of this so we can post it. Oh, wait, we're not posting it. Do I even need to take a picture? Like, whoa,
Right.
what? What just happened?
Right. Right. Right.
Was
Right.
I taking pictures of my family just so I could post them on social media? Or was I taking a picture of me doing this just so I could post it on social media? And it just made me
Yeah.
get a really good look at, okay, that was self-serving. That was to make you look better. That
Yeah.
was, or to show the world this is what you're doing. And yeah, and then going back to the dopamine hits for the likes and stuff, that was so huge for me. And that's, since I know that that's a big thing for me, that I'm going to keep checking how many people comment, how many people, that's a red flag. That was
Yeah.
a red flag for me. But it was great when I got off to even keep realizing, wow, I didn't realize how much I was relying on that for my
Yes.
self-worth, or for my, my motivation behind even taking a photograph of my kids, which is crazy.
That's so
Very crazy.
true. But so many people, that's a really common problem though, Shelley. I mean, when I hear people, when I talk to people about whether or not they want to get off, or people who are struggling with why they want to get off, that is one of the number one things, especially for people who are writers and sharing content, is that thing of like, why am I posting this right now? Why am I taking this picture? Why, that's very common. It's more common than you think. So it's,
Yeah, for
yeah.
sure. So I'm not going to take any more of your time. Thank you so much for being here. Well, I am going to take a second because I would like for you to tell the listeners where they can find you, and talk about both venues that you have, just in case there are some writer listeners. But I know most of my listeners are just going to be head over heels over your podcast, like I am, or your Substack. So tell us about that.
Sure. So you can find everything that I do over at thescooponbalance.com. And there you'll find links to my podcast, which is the Balanced Momcast. It's a weekly podcast for overwhelmed Christian moms, mostly with kids still in the home, but you don't have to still have kids in the home, but that's mostly my demographic. And so if you're feeling frazzled and you're just looking for ways to be a more peaceful mom, show up to your people, Balance Momcast. And then I also have, you mentioned the Substack newsletter. That's kind of a new thing that I'm doing, but it's over at Behind the Balance, or you can just find the link there on the website as well. And that's a weekly newsletter at this point, which basically just tells you what's going to be on the podcast. So if you listen to the podcast, you don't necessarily have to join the newsletter, but whatever. Okay, and then there is some I do extra writing there too, and
And
there
it's
will be
fun
more
because
coming
you
in the
can
summer.
comment and talk to different
That's
people
right.
who have heard it. So that's a fun way to do that too.
Yes, 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 yes. That is a fun way to connect. And then I also have this whole other thing called Writing Off Social, and that is for female Christian writers who want to grow and nurture their audience without social media. And I co-host a podcast by the same name with my friend Mary Kay Tiller, and we have a 7-day challenge. And if you want to take a break from social media, we have a course, 2 different tiers of course. If you're a writer and you want to learn how to grow your audience without social media, we have options for that. And so yeah, but everything, if you don't want to remember any of that, just go to thescooponbalance.com and it's all right there for you.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again so much for being with us, and just sharing all of your knowledge so I didn't have to try to restate it in my own words.
That's right. You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
I know you loved Sandy's story, her tips and strategies, her recommendations, just learning some of the science behind how social media works, and some life-giving experiences that can be ours when we start to let it go. So run, don't walk, to the show notes and click on the links to Sandy's podcast and her website. She is such a beautiful voice of reason and truth and joy in the midst of the chaos and frazzled lives that many of us would like to move away from. I am speaking from experience. She truly helps frazzled women find peace, so check out all she has to offer you. Those links are in the show notes. As always, I'm praying you are able to disconnect from any kind of media in such a way as to be more present and wide-eyed to the glimpses of God's glory that He wants to show you this week in your unperfect life. I'll see you next time.